most of us are a little bit too connected virtually and lacking actual close community-minded connections in the real world, which I think is where the real happiness and fulfillment comes, is in reality, not virtually.
All right, we are recording. We are live. Not live to the internet, but we are live at least in the middle of the jungle, which I think is impressive enough. How do you think? How do you feel about that?
Well, whether it's live or not, I'm here with you. So.
We are live.
We are live. We're at Punta Mona, and this is awesome.
Yeah. I am. I think it's fairly exciting to be doing this because it feels like we are completing our first loop somehow. Because at the end of the day, you discovered myself or Superhero Academy, some of the things that I'm doing in the world, and you heard about our freedom culture kind of mastermind or elements through the fact that I had done a podcast. I was a guest on somebody else's podcast. You were recommended to listen to it. You heard it, I guess, and tell me the rest of the story.
I did. This was last spring, so spring 2018. Mm-hmm. And a friend of mine called me and said, "Peter, you have to listen to this. This is absolutely perfect for you." And she sent me the link to this podcast that you'd guest starred on, Mark. Mm-hmm. And I'm listening to it and hearing freedom culture and Superhero Academy and Costa Rica mentorship and just everything that Superhero Academy stands for. Mm-hmm. And it just absolutely jived with the vision of tribe and community that I'm looking to build in British Columbia, Canada. And I knew kind of from that moment that was probably the next logical step in my own journey. And I knew that I was going to be here with you in February long before you even heard of me.
Beautiful. I love how that happens. I love how somehow you connect to somebody online and you just know how that plays out. And one of the people who is learning how to use the Cinemaker system here today is Miss Jarrah Decker, who is joining us in the jungle now for the second time.
The second time in the jungle, yeah. And we also met online.
She had filled out something called the Impossible List, which was a very, very kind of, it still is a very potent way of getting to know what are the impossible challenges that people want to take on in their life. And she filled it out. I remember reading it and being like, this is juicy. This is like somebody put time and energy into this. And she came out to not the first ever mentorship in Costa Rica. That was actually the second ever mentorship in Costa Rica. But you came out to the mentorship and the mastermind. There was the first mastermind, however. Yeah. And we've been buddies and hanging out and working together in some capacity ever since, it feels.
Yeah, pretty much. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was telling Peter yesterday about how we connected and how we were like friends for a while, and now we're working together, and all of that out of one form.
Well, I think that speaks to the times. It speaks to the cultural narrative that we are living in, which is that today, one of the ways that we connect, as much as we get to connect in person, is that some of the precursor of how we connect in person is through the equipment, in this case, phones or cameras or audio-visual feed that we get to our phones, to our laptops, to the digital devices that we have. And as much as sometimes that creates division, without a doubt, in our communities and in the world, I also believe that it allows us to connect with people who are coming from all over the globe. I mean, at the time Jarrah was living in Amsterdam, you are living in the kind of BC Whistler area, and I guess probably going from time to time into Victoria and or Vancouver, I'm assuming. But the reality is that we're on completely opposite spectrums of the country, in our case, of the world in a sense, and in other cases. And yet we still have the opportunity to work together. We still have the opportunity to play together. We still have the opportunity to get to know one another. And it's amazing how fast we can build trust.
Actually, I'd like to ask you a question on that, because last night we were talking about this, and you were saying how in the tribe that you're currently building, not everybody shares this opinion. So what is your opinion on technology and how it connects us?
Yeah, that's a really great question, Jarrah, because my own feeling, and many of the people in the tribe that we're building's feeling, is that most of us are a little bit too connected virtually and lacking actual close community-minded connections in the real world, which I think is where the real happiness and fulfillment comes, is in reality, not virtually.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the internet has really allowed us to connect with people and in ways and spread our messages in ways that were not possible before. So it's very much a mixed situation for me. And what we're really trying to figure out what to do is how to balance that. Our desire to attract really great people to what we're up to from around the world and to spread our message, while also being really present with each other and not lost in virtual relationships.
So you have kind of like a dual love-hate relationship happening for technology right now.
That's where I'm at right now. Yeah. I'm still sorting that out.
Yeah, I definitely love it more than I hate it. I would say that much. I think I can't imagine my life without it. That's really what it is. It has empowered me so much that I literally couldn't imagine what my life would be like if I didn't have this tool that was enabling me to connect with people all around the globe.
But do you feel like you're disconnected with some people because of it as well?
Yes, because it creates the excuse that I don't have to say bye when I leave home or something. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, so I could speak to you at any time. You know what I mean? So it creates less scenarios in which I am maybe more mindful of my hello goodbyes in a sense, right? I'm more mindful of the way that I connect with people because we have access to people at all times. We don't value the time that we do actually have access to them in person in the same way.
And I think that's it in a nutshell right there, Mark, is that because we have the technology and ability to connect with anyone, anytime, and we can be digital nomads and travel around the globe and be anywhere and still stay in touch with our friends and people we love, is that we believe a text message or a communication through Facebook or a social media platform is a substitute. And so we don't prioritize as much actually connecting in person with people. And that's, for me, that's where the real fulfillment and deepest happiness comes from.
Mm-hmm. So you're here. We spoke on the phone. We spoke once before you decided you were going to make it out here.
Actually, I decided before we talked on the phone.
Well, that's okay, yes. But yeah, that's even wilder. Tell me why you're here. Tell me a little bit about the story that brings you to the jungle to learn about community, not only through me, but through Superhero Academy, through all the people who are part of this community. In this case, Stephen Brooks curating some of the different things that are happening here at Punta Mona, but realistically, a community of transient people, as you've started to discover, making this place run. Why are you here? What brought you to this physical place? And what is it serving towards? Because I know you're involved in a beautiful project that you're a part of and one of the founders of. Tell me a little bit about your backstory, a little bit about what brings you here.
Yeah, my story goes back to being raised in a middle-class family in Canada, and being taught a lot of the normal societal things about, the way to go through life was to get good grades in school, go to good university, get a good job, with a good company, work hard, get promoted, make good money, buy a house, have a mortgage, get married, have 2.3 children. And I didn't make it anywhere close to that. But I, from an early age, didn't really resonate with that. What I feel now is a bit of an antiquated story. It probably did serve a lot of people, and still does serve a lot of people, but I definitely wasn't one of those. And so where I turned instead was to the path of entrepreneurship. I was independent, wanted to make a go of it myself, and I very much believed that making money and being independent that way, I very much did buy that dream that would bring happiness. And by and large, I achieved that by my mid-20s, actually. I had financial success. I no longer needed a job. I had my own business that was running on its own. I could travel the world and pretty much do what I want. I wasn't rich, but I could I could pretty much have most things I needed for that, weren't really costly. But I still wasn't as fulfilled and happy as I imagined. In fact, I was downright lonely and disconnected at times. And that was a really big disappointment to get to that place of success, or what I thought was success, and realize that I still wasn't any happier, maybe less so even.
And so as you're having this kind of crisis moment, right, you're realizing, like, wait a second, like, I've done it, I've made it. And you've made it, like, more than most. And what I mean by that is, like, you actually have, like, a fairly passive income because of the space that you play in. And with that, it's like, okay, well, if this isn't it, now what? Right? And I think there's so many people who are at that, like, now what moment, but they don't know what to do. So what did you do, and what inspired you to do it?
For me, it was actually an accident. I remember a very specific moment. I was dating this woman, and we were in the grocery store, and she insisted on buying the organic produce. And I remember quite clearly being like, why? It costs twice as much. This is silly. Like, why are we spending more? Doesn't make sense to me. And she tried to explain it to me, but I'd kind of already made up my mind that I wasn't going to listen, because I'm the kind of person who thinks they know best a lot of the time. But so she cleverly diverted me and said, "Hey, will you read a book?" And I said, "Yeah, okay, sure." And so that very important book now for me was Omnivore's Dilemma by Michael Pollan, which is the book that the movie Food Inc. is based on. And I broke up with this woman a few months later, and so she never really actually fully saw the results of what she created in that moment.
Oh, you need to let her know.
Have you told her?
Ironically, through Facebook. But what that led to was actually starting my own organic food box program, and trying to learn how to be a farmer. So I went from not even wanting to buy the organic food in the store to being like, oh my God, I have to, like, grow food, and I have to, like, do this for my friends and for other people in my community, and I have to change the world this way. And I didn't know anything about farming, but I had some experience being an entrepreneur, and it was a lot of fun, and I learned a lot, but I made no money at it.
I think that being a farmer is definitely one of the toughest jobs in the world. It is probably the most unappreciated job, given like how much we eat. There's so few,
Absolutely.
Blessings that are being sent to farmers. Not by all, of course, but definitely by the general population. We literally are just very disconnected from our food sources in many ways. Even in those of us who are super conscious, like even those of us who go to Whole Foods are still disconnected from our food source. You go to one store and it's all there available to you. You have no idea what is going on the farm and the struggles that takes. And more than all of that, I really believe that it's the hardest startup on the planet. Like, it's the hardest way to make money, in a sense. It's like it's literally backbreaking work. It's grueling. It could be very hot and tedious. It could be very expensive, right? It can require an enormous amount of upfront
Absolutely,
capital.
but what I discovered in this process was that although I wasn't making any money,
Yeah.
just the fact that I was growing my own food,
Yes.
I was participating in that. Now my friends and people I cared about were getting this food. That actually produced more happiness than my other business, where I was making way more money. And so this moment, or this process, started kind of a cascade effect where I started to look at and get a lot more intentional, inquisitive about other aspects of my life and about society, and really think, okay, well, why is it that we do it this way? Just because this is how everyone else does it, or I'm told this is how it should be done, doesn't mean that necessarily works best for me. So I've become a very intentional person now, in the sense that I really enjoy looking at the reason why we do things and figuring out, what's the best reason actually for me and for my community, irregardless of what everyone else does.
Yeah, I get that. I get that it creates that freedom and this beautiful connection with like Mother Earth of sorts. And there's this pushback that a lot of people have that basically says, yeah, and how am I gonna pay my bills? How am I gonna do this thing, right? There's so many people who show up and like take the permaculture design course. There are very few of those people who actually end up being permaculturalists or actually running a farm or doing those things. I think there's multiple reasons for that. Again, the first is barrier of entry, right? The barrier of entry of like becoming a farm owner is high. I mean, people have to buy real estate. They have to buy a farm in a sense, or they have to go work at a farm. And that's even tougher because now you're putting a ton of energy into a project. And if you don't own the farm and you're just renting the land, you're really not safe. That's like short-term thinking in a sense, ironically, right? Like being a farmer is kind of like long-term thinking when it comes to like healthcare. I believe that eating organic or I don't want to say eating organic, eating healthy is one of the best ways that you can, fight off tons of disease. I mean, it doesn't mean that you're not going to get sick anyway. It doesn't mean that something else doesn't pop up anyway. But it's definitely a good way of going about it. And at the exact same time, there's such a challenge, right? It's like I use this example all the time. To make $1,000 growing tomatoes, you have to grow like 3,000 tomatoes, and that's
maybe more, yeah,
if not more. And that's like really difficult. It's like way more difficult than it looks. And you'll probably have to spend more than $1,000 to get that operation going, right? So it's like I have to invest, then hope that it works, hope that there's no like random frost that kills everything, hope that I didn't fuck it all up, hope that all of it is going to actually work out, and then I have to sell it within a short time span so that it stays fresh and that people are happy about it. And I'm barely going to really and I'm going to get like to some degree some praise and some beauty around being an organic farmer and all those things from certain clients. In some ways also being like, yeah, but it's expensive. Yeah, but whatever. Or just like, how much are the tomatoes? Like, and no real care.
Yeah,
so
100%. That's one of the biggest challenges and systemic problems is that one of the things that is actually most important for us and we need on a daily basis is valued so low and so commodified. And I think that there's a lot of root causes behind that we could go into. But one big one for me actually is actually the fact that so many people are caught in this endless loop, this what maybe many people would call the rat race of having to earn money so they can pay rent and a mortgage, so that they can have a place to live and so that they can buy food and then so they can have a car or pay for transit to get to and from work so they can earn money and so they can pay for entertainment. Everything in our world costs money. That's the economy that we live in. That's the way it's designed. And so that we have to make sacrifices and choices based on what's going to earn us the most income as opposed to what is our higher purpose? What do we really want to do?
Yes.
And that was one of the questions for me that led me to co-create the Zenith project, which is our community project in Canada, because we believe that a lot of people, many people are served by the capitalist system, and I'm not discrediting that at all. I'm actually one of them.
Sure.
But
so
many people's,
so are all of us.
yeah, many people's highest purpose and highest good and highest way of contributing is not something that's recognized by the existing system as being rewarding in a capitally intensive, like in a capital way, sort of way, like farmers, for example. And but what they do is actually really, really valuable. And if you are part of a group and you can get food from someone that you know and you know how it's growing, you see how it's grown, you see the way that it's grown with love, with permaculture and in a healthy way, that is actually worth a lot more to you than even the best food from Whole Foods, which is still shipped from who knows where and sitting on the shelf for so long and produced, yes, organically, but still in a very mechanical sort of a way.
In many cases, yeah.
And not the same. And so what I really believe in is living in a community that supports each other with different sorts of skills, so that everyone's skills and higher purpose can be really valued in a high way. Everyone can contribute. And where I'm going with this really is that I think capitalism itself is not a problem. It's led to a lot of great things for us, but it doesn't serve everyone. And a lot of those people, there are options for them that they probably haven't considered.
Mm-hmm. So tell us more.
Oh, sorry.
Go
I was
for it.
just going to say, outside of the permaculture part of your community, what does it look like? You said you support each other in many different ways. Like,
Yeah,
how
tell
does
us
that
more
play
about the
out?
project.
Yeah.
I should preface all this by saying it's a very fledgling project. So some of what I'm saying are ideals that are not necessarily fully realized yet.
Yeah, sure.
But
You're working towards it.
But what our vision is to create a thriving community of people where everyone, what they work on is their higher purpose, what they love. And I believe that with a group of dedicated people together, that'll work out to be whole and complete in itself. That not everyone is going to want to just grow food. Not everyone is just going to want to be a healer. For example, there are actually people who that's what they're best at, is making capital, making money, and can do that for the whole of the community. And I think that everybody is happiest when they can work collectively together, each person doing what they're most called to for the greater good of their community.
This sounds oddly like what you do, Mark, except for that you do it not in, well, I guess in Valhalla you have, of course, the farm and everybody comes there. But outside of that, I mean, I live across the world. Garrett lives somewhere else. Devin lives half the time in Punta Mona, half the time somewhere else in the States. Like, you guys do the same thing, only you have embraced the technology and you sound like you're still trying to figure out what you think of it.
I think I'm at a different stage of my process in this, right? Like I started in the same process of wanting to start a farm and do everything and it wasn't just a farm for me. It was like I wanted to start an entire off-grid life. Like, it was just like not to disconnect from the system, meaning I still wanted access to the internet and I still wanted to have all the technology and all the things, including a podcast studio. But I wanted all of it to be powered from renewable energy, growing the food to do all that stuff. Here's what I'll say. I still want it that way. I still have that feeling, and everything at Valhalla at the moment is powered from renewable technology. We get our water from wells and from the rain. We grow our own food. I technically could probably live off the calories that we grow at Valhalla at this point. So in many ways, I've actually achieved through the community some level of that reality. The difference, I think, that I bring to the table, and this was there and prevalent on day one, is that the smartest thing I ever did is walk out in the middle of a GMO corn and soya field and plant a tree. I think the second smartest thing I ever did was pull out my phone and document it. And I think that's the difference between maybe the way you're approaching it and the way I approached it, is that I embraced the culture of the times to recognize that would help me draw people who do want to disconnect and reconnect to nature and reconnect to another kind of pace of life, more of like the Pura Vida style that we get to live here in Costa Rica as an example, right? That philosophy, that culture can exist, but if I'm going to have anybody else be affected by it, I need to reach them where their attention is now, right? And unfortunately, in 2018, 2019, going forward, I don't believe...
Probably for many more years after.
Yeah, I don't believe that our time on the phone or in front of screens is about to go down anytime soon. If anything, it's going to go up. We're going to have more reliance on different elements. And if we start replacing things like, now my car drives itself, or it drives me to work without me having to manually drive the car of sorts, then that will only create more time for being on a screen. Yes, and it also creates more time to turn your seat and speak to the passenger next to you. Yes, it allows you to listen to more music or listen to an audiobook more potentially and be more zoned in or whatever it is. Or maybe not, but I don't know. What I do know is that technology is not going anywhere, for sure. The only way it's not it's going to end is that we have some giant solar flare and all technology just is done. But that's another story. And even then, I still believe the technology is incredibly adjacent to where we are today. But I don't disagree with having communities that are less about that, right? I don't know where I stand with it, What I know is what has worked for me. And what I know what has worked for me is that I told the story online, both as beautiful imagery and websites alongside a whole slew of amazing people to help me tell it, make the websites, make the logos, do the code, do all the things that I don't do. And then inherently, I just brought my gift to the table, and that gift was my ability to capture it with cameras, right? To capture that story with cameras, to be able to communicate that story in an effective way. And at this point, I've said it so many damn times that I say some of the same lines over and over and over and over again, because inherently I'm often speaking to new people. And those who I'm not speaking to new people with, I'm still telling that line because there's a refinement. I listened to Jarrah, for example, yesterday. There's these, I guess, tourists here at Punta Mona. They were kind of visiting from Norway. I believe Norway, right?
Yep,
yeah, Norway. And they were just like asking, oh, so, what are you doing here? And then, Jarrah was like, oh, well, we're here to, run this mastermind. And then they were like, well, what's the mastermind? And I got to hear what her interpretation, her way of explaining the mastermind. And what was interesting about that is that you were saying it in your own words, but you were also saying it in many of the things that I would say.
I mean, I've heard it so many times.
Yeah, exactly. But that's super interesting because that's part of what builds culture sometimes, ironically, right? It's like, if I were to ask you the slogan of McDonald's, you probably know it, right? You could probably pull out something, whether you know it right here, right now. Do you know it? Actually, do you actually know it?
I'd know it if I heard it, but I have not actually seen a TV commercial in years.
Really?
It took me a second, but it's I'm loving it.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
I mean, where we're really at right now, for most of us that are part of the Zenith project, is that our goal is not to detach from the world completely and get away from technology. What we love doing and what we get really excited about is connecting with nature, connecting with our food, connecting with a specific land-based culture to our place.
Yes.
Connecting to each other and supporting each other and finding fulfillment through those deep, loving connections that are only possible in person and through mutual cooperation. But for many of us, Zenith is a playground. It's a place where we get to go and we get to go experiment. Mm-hmm. We get to fulfill those fantasies and experiment what it's like to live with people and live harmoniously with nature and experience joy just from completing tasks together and building the community.
Do you all live on the land?
Seasonally, somewhat, yes. Okay. But for example, I'm in Costa Rica right now. It's kind of cold in Canada at the moment. Yeah. And the majority of the people actually that are involved with us come and go. They have other homes as well. And I think that'll continue that way for a while. We're in a relatively remote location. It takes a couple hours to get there from Whistler, almost 4 hours from Vancouver. And as I say, most of the people that are involved with our project don't want to eschew modern life completely. They just want to play with what we're up to because it's extremely liberating. We have a high degree of freedom in our culture. And at the same time, people don't want to run away from the world that's happening around them. They still want to play with technology and influence the greater world around them and leave their mark on the world. So in a lot of ways, we're a retreat. We're a place that people can go and really be themselves with in a place that encourages freedom and cooperation. But it's not a home for everybody. Just like Punta Mona here in Costa Rica, it's an absolutely stunning place, but it would be hard for almost anybody to live here just because it is somewhat disconnected from the world at large. Yeah, connected enough. I mean, I feel like it's getting more and more connected. It's evolved. I mean, Punta Mona has been here for 23 years. It's found a way to build a sustainable culture of sorts. It's found a way to plant a ton of fruit trees and not berry bushes here, I guess. Well, maybe there's some. But I mean, it's found a way to sustain, right? But now it's starting to find a way to evolve, in my opinion. And that evolution is coming in the form of the embracing of the technologies. And not just like any technology, but, they put in an extra solar panel system and some extra batteries. So that allows us to keep the lights on for a little longer or all night if we needed to. And it's not to say that you want to do that every day, but it is to say that at least you have the capacity to do it. And by doing that, by adding in that extra power, you also get to plug in all of this equipment.
You know what I mean? And now all of a sudden we can make multiple episodes of a podcast from Punta Mona, and it doesn't just have to be me. It could be Stephen Brooks. It could be the next person. And all of that leads to more and more and more and more opportunity to have people hear of the types and the faces and the places of this land, right? It gives more of a feeling of what's going on there, because I think that is what people are looking for. I think people are willing to travel 4 hours. I think they're willing to potentially live at a place like Punta Mona, or even in BC out with you, but they need to kind of see the faces behind it. They need to like want to hang out with you, essentially, right? Or they want to hang out with me or whoever it is at Valhalla. And that flow of hanging out with people and hearing the stories allows or creates this sense of connection to a place even from afar. So I would love for you to describe a little bit of the lay of the land, because like for those of you who have never visited British Columbia, it's fucking stunning. It is so beautiful. I mean, the landscapes there, the nature in BC and in Canada in general, but particularly in BC with the mountain ranges and the the fresh water that is there all the time. I mean, just like the beautiful sunsets that happen on the West Coast. I mean, there's just a ton of stuff that I would imagine is quite stunning about this project. Tell us a little bit about it.
I could talk all day about that.
But give us a bit of the lay of the land. Yeah.
Yeah, and just quickly before I get to that though, is in terms of online balance, what we're trying to find our balance at right now is how much time and effort to spend connecting with people online, so that they know what they're up to and have the opportunity to see and be inspired to come and visit and connect with us.
Yeah.
While also still maintaining, not being careful not to create a virtual or online relationship with people, but just showing them enough that they're curious to come and see.
Yeah.
Because if we're spending all of our time online creating content, then we're actually not there building community, which is actually what we're up to and we want people to be attracted to.
Yeah. Well, I think that so
that's the balance we're trying to find.
Sure, but I think that there's also an opportunity for somebody who wants to join the project whose like main focus is more like mine, which is be a videographer.
I was just going to say, there might be somebody whose highest excitement is to be, like Garrett, for example, joined the Superhero Academy, and he's like, yes, I want to also do photography and videography and tell stories and like share them on Instagram, and he's really good at it. That's his highest excitement.
Totally.
He loves doing it.
And he wanted to do it for only impact-based projects, which is amazing, right? Like he wanted to learn social media management and be a digital nomad, and that was his original goal, to make $2,000 a month being a digital nomad that is supporting impact-based projects. And so he saw Valhalla and he saw what we were doing. The only way he knew about it is because I had the passion, not just the obligation, but the passion of documenting, of sharing, of doing those different pieces. And I don't feel like, I'm surely less connected to nature than some people, but I'm significantly more connected than the average person, I think. Or at least I have a deeper understanding of like the overarching picture and the importance of nature in many ways. And I think a lot of people have that understanding, but they're
you choose to spend
busy.
your time in
I choose to like do it. Yeah, I choose to like participate.
We could be doing this interview in a city, but
oh yeah, it would be way easier.
But that's not where you've chosen to be. So.
Absolutely, it would be way easier for me to just put this in a studio and be in a city, and I will do that, and I'll do both really. But all of that leads to me feeling like all of that leads me to feel that there is an opportunity for everyone, and that a community often requires many of the different passions and skill sets that you find in any city, in any suburb, in any farm, but we tend to lack in certain eco-villages and certain farms in some ways, right? Like,
and you're right. That is one of the things that we don't have as part of our community or team right now, is someone who's passionate about communicating and documenting things.
Yeah. And even if you took a little bit more interest in it, I don't think that it would require you to spend that much time doing it. Like, if I had to guess how much time you could spend working on the quote unquote storytelling, marketing, communication side of whatever, of anything, of any project, but particularly of this kind of project, I honestly believe that if you spend about a month, like really, like total, so like a couple of days every month over the course of a single season, you could create enough content, enough imagery, enough drone shots, enough beautiful photos, enough emails and stories around the different projects that are happening on the property, physically and in person, right? With the different community members and some of the faces and kind of the voices of those community members and the ethos that you are bringing to the table and that you are allowing others to come and experience.
And that's exactly why I'm here with you in Costa Rica, because I've recognized the fact that for us to grow and have the impact that we desire,
that's a necessary piece.
More communication with the world and inspiration is the next step. That's the next big step for us.
Yeah, I believe that it can represent about like 10% of your time. You know what I mean? Like I believe it can represent a very small fraction of your time. If I think about how much time I spend making content, it's not that much, ironically. And yet, I spend a lot of time building systems that make a ton of content for a ton of people. But if I think about how much time I spend making content, and yet I'm super empowered by that content, by like the one video a week that somehow I'm able to muster out, it's pretty remarkable. The input-output ratio of that is like far more effective than any fruit tree is, almost, in terms of the amount of work that you have to take care of a single fruit tree versus the amount of work that the amount of upside that you can get from a single video that will plant and potentially bring thousands of people who will come and plant many, many, many fruit trees. It's like which one of them, like it's having the balance between the two, right? One of them, even though it is the longer term thinking in terms of the wisdom of the planet and Mother Nature, which is plant a tree today, actually, weirdly enough, if you use the other tool to then invoke that other people are going to come plant trees alongside you, you will now plant, 100% more trees, and all of a sudden you're getting double the fruit, you're getting double the amount of time, but it didn't take you all that time. You know what I mean? It only required 10% more. It only required a little bit more effort in some ways. So it feels like, to me,
I'm not disagreeing with you.
No, I know you're not.
This is a good idea.
Yeah.
I want you to get that.
Oh, I totally get that. I know, I 100% get that. Yeah.
And I also just want you to get that planting the fruit tree in this analogy is one of the pure joys in my life, is growing food and permaculture. I get so much satisfaction and connection from that, and I'm not going to replace that with
making more
virtual time or that kind of thing. And I'm totally agreeing with you that that's a great idea and an important step for us.
Yeah, I guess what I recommend is that not that you would replace any time that you're spending on the farm, operating the farm or planting trees, but that if there's a way that you could spend like 10% less time working and 10% more time telling the story so that you can attract more people to come and plant trees alongside you, then inherently I feel, I know that there is going to be a massive explosion of people who are going to want to participate. And I know that, like, I would really love to hear the lay of the land of this project. I'd really love to hear, like, what's there. Is there a house? And I have some answers to this already, but I would love for you to explain this to anybody who, obviously is hearing about this for the first time. Exactly.
Well, let me tell you a story first.
Sure.
So, also, growing up in Ontario, Canada, which is quite flat, I first saw the mountains when I was about 16 years old on a family trip. And I often forget about this now because it's been so many years since then. But I made a solemn declaration to myself at one time that I was going to come and I was going to move there. I didn't tell my parents at the time because they wouldn't have liked that idea very much. But I knew in my mind, as soon as I saw the mountains, that the majesty and the beauty and the pure nature of them was something that I was going to return to. And so I did when I was 23, about 7 years. It took me 7 years, but I eventually got there. And to flash forward a little bit, the location that we're in, we've chosen that because it really highlights the beauty of what's possible. Mm-hmm. So we're on a mountain lake. It's about 20 kilometers long. and it fills a mountain valley with huge mountains on both sides, glaciers, unspoiled nature, virgin forests, and it's a relatively unpopulated area. The closest town to us is about an hour away, and that's only a few thousand people. And so, although our location is 40 acres, we have a virtual thousands and thousands and thousands of acres of wilderness and mountains and just beauty surrounding us. And so our playground is actually massive. And I think for most people to be really grounded and really present, we need to have access to nature. And if you look at people who live in cities, where are they attracted to? They want to live by the ocean. They want to live by the park. They want to go hiking nearby in the mountains or whatever happens to be nearby. That's what people are drawn to. And I can tell you from experience, to live in a place where you're surrounded by unspoiled nature, where you see bears and deer and eagles every day, it's incredibly powerful. It's incredibly powerful to live amongst that rather than have that be a place that you just visit.
Yeah, that does sound amazing. Do you guys, because you said you're starting like a farm, so you've already started farming the land, or is that in progress still?
Well, I did have a farm at one point, like I was talking about earlier, and that was a money-making, or attempted at money-making operation that didn't make any money. But we are in the process of planting a food forest and doing a whole bunch of permaculture and perennial food planting with the goal of generating more food than we can eat. So we can also provide with some of the local people around us and have extra to trade and share. And that's going to be a long-term process, which is going to take a few years. But for example, we planted about 60 orchard trees last year and a whole bunch of vines and other perennial plants. And a few more years of that, and we'll be there.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So, who would you say is primarily coming and visiting right now? Like, what has drawn people in? How is the community kind of functioning now? And I know it's at the infancy stages and the seed stages of, let's say, gaining members or people who are kind of showing some level of dedication, whether part-time or full-time or whatever that looks like. But tell me a little bit about the faces of the people who are showing up and how they're discovering it, how they're feeling, how you feel when they visit.
Yeah, so there's really 3 different kinds of people that come and visit us. So right now that would either be friends who are coming for our gatherings, holiday celebrations, events, parties, or just to hang out for a week on their vacation and have fun. And they'll get involved and participate with, things like planting and building projects and chopping firewood and just enjoying the actual physical tasks that go with living off grid and living on the land. And then we have a pretty good work trade or woofing program going. We hosted about 30 to 40 people last year who came on work exchange. So that's been our most successful program as far as visitors go for people that will stay 2 weeks to a month or so. And they'll help out for 4 hours a day, and all their needs will be taken care of. They'll have a place to stay. They'll have food to eat. They have no costs while they're there, and they get to learn about what we're up to and enjoy the beautiful setting that we're in. And then the third category of people would be people that are coming from to one of our retreats or events. So last year we hosted a healing retreat, for example, a 3-day healing retreat. So we had some guests coming for that. We had a few people rent the property for their own retreats or events. So that would be the third category, and that's our revenue stream at this point to support what we're up to is hosting events and retreats on the land. And so what we're looking for more of actually is converting more of the people who are visiting, connecting with them a little bit more deeply, and finding people who really resonate with what we're up to and might want to establish a longer term relationship with us and with the project.
Why do you think that hasn't happened so far? Or like, what do you think is the next steps in making that happen?
That has happened to a certain extent with our group of friends.
Yeah.
But to really create a thriving community, you need a large diversity of skills. and a large diversity of dedicated people to really create a thriving and abundant place rather than a place that's just managing or just getting by. And so it's really just a numbers game. And that's why we're reaching out. We're making efforts now to reach out a little more publicly to let people know what we're up to and what opportunity is here, so that people that do resonate can, get in touch with us.
Yeah.
So how can people get in touch with you if they are looking to look out? Let's put a little plug in here for you guys.
Thank you. We do currently have a blog, not a very nice one, but we do have a small online presence. It's zenithcommunityproject.wordpress.com. So you can check a little bit about us there.
Links in the comments somewhere, or show notes, or wherever it is, wherever you're watching it.
And we do have posts on a couple sites like HelpX and Workaway, where you can view about our volunteer experiences, which is a good way for people that want to connect with us. It's a good way to just come and meet us, and even if it's just for a week or something like that, and see what it's like. And the barrier to entry for that is pretty low. You basically just have to get here. We take care of you for a week, and then you work with us on a part-time basis for the week, see what we're up to, and you get to hang out in a lakeside paradise in the mountains and go hiking and swimming and
run from bears. No, I'm joking.
It's possible.
There's some very friendly ones around.
Yeah.
I could use the standard shark analogy of how more people die in car accidents getting to wherever than get killed by bears.
Absolutely.
It's like an extremely small number that.
Oh, totally. Super small number. Yeah.
But shortly, I'm here working with the Superhero Academy and Mark in Costa Rica this month, and shortly we're going to have a more clear online presence and website where people can really get a better sense of what we're up to. So there'll be some more notes in the spots that I've described on here where you'll be able to see what that is and to engage with us a little bit more. But being the people we really want to connect with are almost like people who are reluctant users of technology, kind of like we are. People who are on technology because it serves them in some ways. It is extremely useful, cool. But they desire a life that's more connected in person and maybe a little less virtual.
Well, I must say that in the time that I've seen you here, I haven't really seen any technology in your hands. I haven't really seen you care whatsoever other than coordinating when you landed and picking you up from the airport.
It probably drove you crazy that I took you 2 or 3 days to get back to you sometimes, I imagine, by email
No, it didn't.
Or text message.
No, it doesn't at all. I fully understand that, different people's rates at which they respond or whatever it is. I don't hold anything to it. But yeah, no, it's been pretty remarkable to watch you thrive. And I would say that your energy and curiosity towards what is going on here at Punta Mona in general with people and in community is definitely felt. And we've only known each other for a few days in terms of spending time here in the jungle, and we have many more days to go here. But I'm excited to learn a little bit about what do you feel are some of the things that Superhero Academy, myself, Jarrah, whoever can bring forward and evoke in you. What are some of the transformations that are going on in you that you are starting to see are going to ripple into the community at large, that you are a steward of and that you are a part of?
Well, the reason I knew I was coming here before you had even heard of me or even contacted you is the same reason that I'm here and what I'm learning. And it's that I think, Mark, you and Jarrah and the Superhero Academy, you guys are great digital marketers and storytellers. And what you're doing spoke to me. So your story captured my interest, and I thought, if I can tell a story half as well as these guys, we're gonna be turning people away. We're gonna have too many people.
That is very true. That is very, very, very true. I think that you really will be. I know you will be. I think there's tons of people who want to participate in projects like this. I think they need access to it, and they don't even know where to find them. I know that when I walked out into the middle of a GMO corn and soya field, that I did that not because I thought that I was brave or that was like the best thing I can do and I had to do it on my own or whatever it was, is I literally didn't know of any other options. I never heard of an eco-village. I never visited one. I didn't know that any of these communities particularly existed, and I didn't know where they were. Particularly, they didn't seem like they were around me and anywhere I was living. So I do believe that there's a trend that is happening where people do want to disconnect to reconnect. They do want to participate and learn a little bit more about these different things. And I think more than anything, they want to learn from people like yourself who have found ways to be sustainably, financially sound, and at the exact same time be able to live a lifestyle where none of that really matters. Because you are now immersed in a new reality, and you are continuing to immerse yourself in a new reality and invest in that future reality more and more and more. And I believe that every single tree that you plant and every time that you put a small dose of energy or implement a new system or website or drone shot of the land that you are working on and that you're participating on, you are contributing to the greater dream that not only yourself has, but many people after you are going to be able to enjoy, participate in, and contribute to. So I always say to anyone who has remotely done something near starting an eco-village of any kind or starting a community of any kind, I really know how difficult that can be. I know the politics that could come with that, dealing with community and all that stuff. There's many challenges there. But I also know that it's something incredibly fulfilling, and I thank you for it. I thank you for being somebody who is a pillar, who was willing to take that leap, who is continuously willing to take that leap, because it's easier to start than it is to continue. And to recognize that there are a lot of people who just want to know how they can fit in. If I can give you any piece of advice, it's like most of the people who are visiting, more than just wanting to visit, they might want to even know just other ways that they could participate and play. And more importantly than anything, they want an invitation to do such sometimes. And as one of the founders of this project, you get to have that capacity to ignite people in that way. You get to light that candle, essentially, right? They'll be drawn to the flame. They'll be around. They'll participate in it. They'll see it. But until you give them the opportunity and like the power, essentially, to be like, hey, this project is equally yours, right? When you can continuously allow them to feel like your dedication to the we and to the us is true and is there, because I know it is. I can sense it. Then you'll have more people than you'll know what to do with. You'll have more people showing up, wanting to participate, and your next problem will be, well, how do I organize this? How do I create this opportunity for all of these people, all the while maintaining harmony, all the while maintaining some of the values and core foundations that your project brings forward?
Yeah, and I think I think we're in a process right now of transitioning from the age of the individual to the age of the tribe. We're going back thousands of years in history to where we started, and we're now in the age of the tribe. Many of those tribes are digital now, as opposed to physical, but I think that's where we're going, and that's certainly what I'm up to, and also what you guys at the Superhero Academy are up to. You guys are creating an amazing tribe of people trying to find their highest purpose, and you're supporting them in that in a way, and you want to see their dreams come true, and that's what attracts me here as well, and you guys are doing an awesome job of it.
Well, thank you. We're trying. I don't always feel like we are, but we are definitely doing our best. And I think we're doing something in terms of making... I feel like we're making headway. It's like we're trailblazing a path in which others can walk upon for this to actually really function in a more and more potent way and powerful way. I see Garrett nodding his head in the background. He's approving of the fact that we are podcasting in the jungle. Any last questions, Garrett, that you would have for Peter, or anything you want to throw in?
I have no idea what was being said before.
Exactly. That's why I wanted to throw a wild card here at the end.
What's your favorite superhero?
Oh,
I was
What's your
hoping you would
favorite?
ask that question because I actually have a remarkable ignorance of pop culture, and so my superhero is not someone from pop culture. But my superhero are I know this sounds a little bit new agey, but my superhero are the plants and the animals and the everyday miracles around me that inspire me.
Yeah, not that new agey at all. Actually, I think to some degree the new agey thing is like. To some degree, the new agey thing is kind of the hipster thing, which is like whatever the latest superhero movie came out is, it seems to be many times over the answer that people tend to have. So yeah, I actually love that you don't know all that much about pop culture. I find it so hilarious that somehow you and I connected through the online realm because, like I said, it seems like you spend so little time there. You know what I mean? It just seems like.
Totally, and it took my friend sending me the link to find you. I wasn't.
Yeah,
I
you
wasn't
wouldn't have found it on
available.
your own. Yeah.
Probably not. No.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm glad that podcasts exist. I'm glad that you're here. I'm glad that Punta Mona is a thriving space for us to get to explore and to share and to co-create with a whole bunch of people. I am glad for Jarrah, who's now learned how to operate this beautiful machine, and we are going to continue to make a ton of content coming out from this magical land. And yeah, I will see you all in the next episode. Thanks so much for joining us, Peter.
It's been a pleasure.
All the links down below, all the things that you need to find, whatever it is, it's somewhere. Make sure that if you want to participate in making projects like this happen all around the globe, the first thing you need to do is show up. But the next thing you can do is if you, like Peter's friend, know somebody who needs to hear this story, who wants to visit a project in BC or Montreal, Costa Rica, wherever, let them know. Let them know. Send them this link. Share it with somebody. Vote with your attention in many ways. And voting with your attention doesn't just mean with your clicks. It means go outside and plant a tree. Go participate. You don't have to own the land to go and plant a tree and make this happen. There are tons of public parks all around the globe, and nobody's going to stop you from guerrilla gardening them. You know why I know? Because I've done it before. And you can too.